Today we're making the most romantic vegetable you've ever seen. Hey guys, welcome to Phlearn. My name's Aaron Nace. You can find me on Twitter at AKNacer. Today we've got some huge news from you. We got some contest winners, we got a new contest, and we're doing something insane in Photoshop. Before we get started, I'm going to show you guys this issue of Practical Photoshop magazine in the UK, and I'm in it, so that's why I just want to show it off, because I'm really proud of this, if I can open it up. Anyway, I've got a feature in Practical Photoshop magazine, so if you guys are in the United Kingdom or anywhere else in the world where you get one of these, pick it up. And thanks for Steve for sending this over from England. That was awesome of you, man. Today is contest day, so we're going to announce the winners from last week's contest. We have Daniel Cook, Daniel G, and Stevie. All of you guys did an awesome job with high key images. You all win a Phlearn Pro, and today we're going to be editing Daniel Cook's image here in Photoshop. We got a lot to do. We're going to be using the pen tool. We're going to be doing some sketching. We're going to be doing some clone stamping and using clipping masks. It's going to be pretty insane. So it's a pretty technical day. I think you guys are going to do well with it. So let's go ahead and get started, and at the end of today we're going to announce the contest. So here's our image, and really we were playing around with this, and I was like, well, why don't we do something cool with the stem? It's a great high key image, and I thought it might look cool, you know, if we do something with the stem here. So what we're going to do, I'm just going to grab my brush tool and start kind of sketching around here what I might think would look good. You know, in this case, I think just making a heart or something simple out of it is just a kind of cool use to do with this. And I could see this having applications on like advertising. Advertising a lot of the times is something like very, very simple like this. As long as it's executed well and looks good, you know, you see this sort of thing done quite a bit. So I'm sketching it out here. We're going to use the pen tool in just a second to kind of like solidify everything. But you know, I don't like using the pen tool without a pretty clear idea of what I'm actually going to be doing and where it's going to go. So that's why I like to sketch things out. Now you hear in this middle part, you could either do a loop around to kind of get it there, or you could do a crease. And I think we're going to go with a crease. It's going to be a little bit easier to do, not as technical, and I think it'll look just as good, maybe even better. So there's our sketch. Now, how do we turn this sketch into something that doesn't look like a sketch? You know, we want it to actually look real, or else it's pretty much useless. So what I'm going to do is, let's zoom in. I'm going to grab my pen tool. So we hit P for the pen tool, and I'm going to follow this stem around and go ahead and kind of trace what I've got going on with my stem. So we're going to click and drag here, and creating points with the pen tool, it's all about clicking and dragging. And this guy in the middle here, I'm pointing at my screen like you can see it. This guy in the middle here, see how it moves around? That's what you want to kind of keep an eye on. These others are your control points, and that controls those curves. But the curves themselves, that's what we're really going for here. Now, since we have a nice big curve up there, I'm just going to click right down here and see if I can accomplish that entire curve very easily. And you want to, the end goal with the pen tool is to do your shapes and your curves with as few points as possible. Don't click 100 times. That's not going to help you out. You want nice, sweeping, beautiful curves. Now, I'm going to hold Alt or Option, grab this guy, and bring it back up. All right, and we're going to click here, get a nice, big, sweeping curve there, and then bring that back to close. Now, if it's not exactly right, it's not a big deal. Hold down the Control or the Command key, and you can kind of adjust these. You can adjust these anchor points independently of one another. So you can see it wasn't exactly right on the first go round, but you know, not really that big of a deal because I can adjust them now. So even, you know, clicking just a few points, we can see we've already got our shape there. Now, what I'd like to do, I'm going to make this invisible just to kind of look at this curve without any, you know, without anything there, just to make sure like, okay, that is a pretty nice curve. Now, let's go ahead and continue on. If you lose track of your pen, so if you start like, you know, painting around or using the pen tool again and it creates a new one, what you want to do is hold down the Control or the Command key and go to the very last point. There we go. And you'll see a little square. Click on that, and that's going to continue with the same pen path. All right, so we're going to click again. I'm going to click that kind of going out. Maybe we'll get a little curve. Holding down Alt or Option again, we're going to come around, and I'm going to try to do the best I can to put the points in about the same place. That's going to ensure that I have the same type of curve all the way around, because we want it to look like it's, you know, basically the exact same thing. There we go. Hold Alt or Option, grab this. Now, you're probably wondering if there are other ways to do this besides the pen tool, and no. The answer in this case is no. This is by far the best tool to use. So if you are interested in doing something like this, making shapes, you want to use the pen tool. It's just, in order to get this much control over what you're doing, there are no better tools to do it in Photoshop. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to click here and just kind of fool around with these curves a little bit, because I want the width of this to be, continuous throughout the entire shape. In other words, I don't want it to get like really thin there. You can see how that looks horrible, because this is supposed to be a stem of a vegetable. So we want it to make sure it looks, actually the same thickness throughout. And, it could actually get a little bit thinner towards the end. Why not? Because vegetable stems do that. We just want to be sure that we're following the laws of stemology, which I'm a student of. I love stemology. There we go. That looks pretty good. So that's going to be our heart. Now, how do we actually turn this into something we can use? Well, still with the pen tool, just right click and go to Make Selection. You can choose to feather that if you'd like. Let's choose to feather it by like 0.3 pixels. You know what? I'm not even going to feather it. We can feather that later if we want, but you can't undo it now. So let's hit OK, and you can see that's going to turn it into a selection. Now what we're going to do is a lot of clipping masks today, guys. So on a new layer, I'm just going to fill this layer with white. So we're going to hit D for our default colors, and then Command Delete to fill that with white. Okay? Or you know what, if you want to just fill it with stem color, there we go. Whoa, there we go. Don't do that. Let's lock the transparency of that real quick. And there we go. There we go. I'll just fill it with that color. Unlock the transparency. So now what we want to do, we have the shape of our stem. What we want to do is transfer some of the stem detail onto this actual shape. So to do that, we're going to make this guy invisible. On a new layer, I'm going to grab my clone stamp tool, S for the clone stamp tool. Make sure you're sampling current and below here, and we're just going to sample here and paint on a new layer. So we're just painting the stem on a new layer, and then we're going to use this in multiple different iterations to complete the shape. And don't worry about being really accurate here. It doesn't really matter that much. Okay, now let's go ahead and make that invisible. Now we're going to take advantage of clipping masks. Now clipping masks basically makes something visible only where the underlying layer is visible. So we have the shape visible underneath, the shape of the M here, or the heart, and now we want to clip this to where it's only visible where the actual heart is. Let's go ahead and duplicate it just in case. I like to have multiple copies. And now to clip something, just right click and go down to Create Clipping Mask. There we go. So you can see now the shape of, or the stem rather, is only going to be visible exactly where the shape we already defined is already visible. And now it's time to just kind of play around. You're going to want to stretch and move these things around. What I might recommend doing is flipping them around. Let's just hit Command T, right click and say flip horizontal. There we go. And let's go ahead and rotate that. Now you can move these and stretch them and warp them and scale them however you want to do. I would recommend doing it probably before you clip it so you can kind of see what you're doing and getting everything to the right shape. If you want to right click and hit warp, you can do that as well, which is just going to help you kind of warp these shapes into position there. There we go. And it's going to look as good as you spend time on this. Obviously, I'm going pretty quick here. Option Command G will also clip, and let's bring our opacity up to 100. I'm going pretty quick. We'll put a layer mask on that and just paint black. So if you spend a little bit more time, I think you'd have a bit more luck getting all your grain matched up and things like that. I'll go back in a minute and just kind of paint that in. But you can see it's really not that hard to do. Especially, if you wanted to account for like a curve there or something like that, we can do that too. All right, let's just do a duplicate of this layer again, and we're going to bring that up. So we're using basically the same detail over and over and over again. And when you do that, you run the chance of having it look like it's basically just repeating, because it is. So that's why I would suggest warping, and there we go. And that's going to help it look as though it doesn't repeat as often as it actually does. All right, let's hit Option Command G to clip that on there as well. And ideally, you wouldn't have anything that would continue on past the shape. Like this line wouldn't go up all the way there. It would do something like this. You'd put a layer mask on it and then paint it black to about where it is, tangent to the actual curvature of the root or whatever that is, the stem. And that way you can line up the next guy. There we go. You can line up the next guy doing basically the same thing. So this is going to be tangent to that as well, and it's just going to make it a little bit easier. All right, just a couple more transformations to go, and then we'll be good. So that's tangent to the curve. Let's make this guy tangent to the curve as well. There we go, and shrink it up a little bit. However you can get it to follow this shape is good to go. Good for you. It's not the easiest thing in the world. Come on. Option Command G will then clip that again. So then we have that shape again. Now from here, really the only difficult part is making it look like it actually does that. Like this is the actual shape of a root. We're going to do some things in just a second to make sure it looks a little bit more natural. But let's just say that looks okay. It definitely looks good in like this area here, coming up with the curvature there. The end of the line there looks pretty good. And this is, really the only place that doesn't look that great. So what you can do is if you want to just duplicate everything, on a new layer, what we're going to do is I'm going to do the clone stamp tool thing again. There we go. And you can kind of just patch this in any areas that don't look great, which is what we're going to do. Let's just lower the opacity, kind of shrink that in, and warp that. There we go. And we can bring the opacity back up. Let's go ahead and clip that on there and paint black. So we can see it kind of like makes up for the fact that everything wasn't necessarily continuous off the bat. Now it just looks a bit more like, oh, okay, maybe that actually does continue around with that. Great. Well, we're still using our clipping mask, so let's go ahead and I'm going to grab a nice darker color here, and we're going to start to paint a little bit of shadow on here. And I'm just going to paint in there. Let's change our layer mode to soft light. Actually, you know what? We're going to keep this on normal. I'm just going to lower the opacity of it. And it's just going to allow me to paint a little bit of shadow in there. We're going to paint some highlight in as well. And it's just going to like make it look like it's actually, curving around and, not so flat. All right, let's do another layer. We'll grab a lighter color now and kind of paint on the top side. We were painting on the bottom side earlier. So this is going to help kind of round that out again. All right, and we'll lower the opacity of this as well. Now, if we want to create like a cleft or something, which I think would look pretty good, let's just sample right there in that darker area and create a little cleft here for the heart. There we go. Option Command G will also clip that, and then we'll put a layer mask on this as well. All right, and this is the sort of thing that, the more time you spend on it, the better it's going to look. It's, I'm not expecting amazing results after doing this for 2 minutes. That's just not going to happen. Let's click on our shape here, command click on that, and create a new layer underneath it, and then fill that with, I'm going to fill it with black. There we go. And then we have this shape kind of right over here. Now I'm going to create a Gaussian blur on this, and this is going to kind of be the shadow of our little stem here. Let's just change the opacity to like 30%, and you don't really need to go too crazy with this, especially, because it is a high key image. It's not very visible, especially on the ground here, but, up towards the actual object itself, a little bit of a shadow will help make it believable. So I would recommend doing that. Now, what we're going to do here at the end, let's just go ahead and group that. So pretty cool, right? I mean, we did that. It didn't really even take that long. What I'm going to do at the very end, I'm going to create a stamp visible layer, Shift Option Command E, which just merges everything we have visible together. And now I'm going to go in here with the Smudge Tool. which is just over here. I don't use this tool that much. Let's just bring up the strength. And I'm going to smudge a couple things in. And what it's going to do is it's going to bring a little bit less perfection into what we're doing. You know, whenever you're doing something organic, you know, working with a fruit or something like that, it's not going to have perfect, beautiful lines all the way around it, right? So what we're doing is, let's just bring our strength up a little bit. I'm kind of like painting in a couple imperfections, you know, just like pushing areas in a little bit. And, you know, this is where the stem might be curling out a little bit or curling in. And it will make it look a lot less like it was just, you know, done in Photoshop. All right, especially like here, I might curl that out and then push that in or something like that. All right, so you can see there, let's just turn this off and on. Let's zoom in a little bit there. So turning this off and on, can you see how the before just looks like it was done in Photoshop? It's just too perfect, and the after is like, okay, maybe nature had some say in what's going on there. Maybe not, because this looks totally weird right there. Let's solve that, and then we'll be done. All right, we'll make a layer here, and what we're going to do is I'm going to grab a gradient tool. Let's just gradient that from the foreground to transparent. There we go. Now, even if you are not using clipping mask anymore, because we can't really, considering we just did a stamp visible, you can still command click on your shape here and then load that into a layer mask that's anything above there. All right, and let's just change that to soft light, and hopefully that'll look like it's got a little bit of a cleft there. There we go. Very cool. So that's our shape, making a heart out of a stem, and I think this looks cool for not a whole long time. If you guys are doing this on your own, I would recommend spending at least 3 times that long if you wanted it to look perfect, but that's basically the idea. So guys, thank you so much for watching Phlearn. Here's our contest for the week. I can't wait to see your guys' entries. Make sure you submit them in a comment down below. Here's what we're doing. Environmental portrait. All right, we want people in places. This means no people, a studio blank white backdrop does not count in this case, okay? We want a person in an environment, an environmental portrait. It could be of a dog, it could be of a person, a bird, whatever you want. It's got to be in a place, and hopefully that place is going to tie back with that person. Where they are is going to make sense with who that person is, and that makes for a great environmental portrait. Leave them in a comment below. Next week you could win a Phlearn Pro and have your image edited on Phlearn. Thanks so much for watching Phlearn, guys. I'll Phlearn you later. Bye, everyone. Hey guys, welcome to Phlearn. My name's Aaron Nace. Find me on Twitter at AKNacer. This is Phlearn.